he didn't have the incentive to do well in the first place, and you are now in the business of making kids wanna. I sure do hope you're right about why he's not doing well, because if you're wrong, and you're busy making a kid wanna, and he already does wanna, you run the risk of making things worse, or at the very least, not being as helpful as you might have wanted to be. I'm a kids do well if they can guy. I think if this kid could do well, he would do well. Something must be getting in his way. Your role just changed. Your role just changed. You've just flipped from thinking the kid isn't doing well because he doesn't wanna, and therefore thinking that your role in the life of this kid is to make him wanna, to something a lot harder, and in my experience, a lot more productive. You've just shifted to kids do well if they can, and what's your main role now? Figure out what's getting in his way. Then you can help him. You can't help him if you don't know what's getting in his way. Biggest favor you can do a challenging kid is to finally, at long last, be the person who figures out what's getting in his way. Because you see, if he's still challenging, pretty surefire bet. Nobody's figured it out yet. The key theme of collaborative problem solving, the key philosophy, if you remember nothing else from everything I say, I hope you remember that if this kid could do well, he would do well, because kids do well if they can.
So that phrase, kids do well if they can, is one that has really stuck with me, because when I first started teaching, I thought, ooh, these kids are behaving because they just want to make my life terrible. They want me to have such a rough time, they're not following directions, they're running around the classroom. And then I was introduced to Dr. Ross Green, and it really did change my perspective and how I approach kids who have behavioral challenges. If what he was saying resonated with you, he has two excellent books. One is called Lost at School. Lost at School. And the other book is called The Explosive Child. And I highly recommend those two. So if we're working with children from the approach of kids do well if they can, we can be much more solutions oriented and try to figure out how we can help a child who is struggling behaviorally. So that's one important philosophy. The other important philosophy is being proactive instead of reactive. If we're always reacting to behavior, then the behavior is probably just going to continue. But if we can see the challenging behavior and identify it, and once we recognize it, we can plan for it. And that's the key. Once we're able to plan for the behavior, our lives and the child's lives become much, much easier because we can create a plan. So I want to just go over some keys to behavior management that I've written on my handout. And as I'm speaking, there will probably be others that come to mind. So my handout is called Managing Behavior Challenges in Academic Therapy. And I can't stress enough how having a trusting relationship with a child, but in particular, children who have behavioral challenges, is really getting to know them, through the use of the talent line, and then also just through other ways of getting to know the child, asking them, how was your weekend? If you know they love soccer or they're on a soccer team, how was your soccer game? It really makes a difference. And I will definitely say from my experience that when I have a better relationship with a student, I see that the behavior is often better. It's not perfect, but they may act with me in ways that they don't act for another individual. So that relationship and getting to know the student and letting the student get to know you is really important. The second key piece, and Merida addressed this a little bit, is becoming a master observer of your child, or of the student that you're working with. So not just listening to what the student is saying, but also body language as well, because students can communicate without saying a word. And making notes of specific behaviors that you're seeing that are a little bit concerning to you. You might not know what to make of them in the moment, but if you're seeing them, then you can start in your head to start formulate a plan. So you want to consider what's the actual behavior,